Now, before we continue on the futility of Build Back Smaller and Chunkier, a new fiasco is on the rise. Yesterday, President Biden made world headlines with the extraordinary statement that, quote, minor incursion into the Ukraine by Russia would be okay. And after the uproar, he then tried to walk it back today by saying, and I will quote, if any assembled Russia units move across the Ukrainian border, that's an invasion, end quote. Well, what does that mean? Back in 2014, non-uniformed mercenaries and special forces popped up in Crimea. They didn't assemble, they just took the country over. By Biden's definition, is that an invasion? Is it a minor incursion? Is it an assault on NATO? Remember, by the way, the Ukraine is surrounded by 4 NATO countries: Poland, Hungary, Romania, and Slovakia. I don't get this, but I am really worried about it. So we're calling in the troops here to help us sort through. John Ratcliffe, former director of national intelligence and America First Policy Institute Center for American Security, co-chair. John, thank you so much, as always, sir. Frank, you have to help me. You know what? I mean, I watched the thing live in real time. Maybe you did too. What does he say? What is the president saying?
Yeah, I did watch it, and to say they walked it back is maybe the understatement of the year, Larry. Think how bad this was. The president gave his remarks at 4 p.m. yesterday. This morning, Jen Psaki gave her first ever interview with Fox News to try and walk back his statements. Vice President Harris, who you know this administration doesn't like to be out there talking about anything, also went on national TV to walk back his comments. And then after the Ukrainian president himself tweeted about this, Joe Biden had to make another appearance this morning to walk back what he said. That's how, his remark was so out of line and concerning, and it really, really underscores why this is the president's only second press conference, why they don't want him out there saying things that are unscripted. It causes damage around the world. I mean, the president of Ukraine tweeted about this, saying there are no small incursions, there are no small nations, there are no small casualties. The rough translation on that, Larry, is someone, keep the idiot in the White House from blathering on about this. It really is extraordinary that it came to that. And so, obviously, I think, he did not intend that to be a public comment. I think that what he related there was something that was discussed in intelligence briefings about, hey, maybe if Russia just does something minor, we won't need to do anything, or we'll just take some minor economic steps. That was never intended to be made public, and Joe Biden made it public. And now the backlash and the uproar from that has really, changed the chessboard with respect to what happens in Ukraine moving forward.
Well, if he never intended to make it public, okay, but it's a very bad statement of policy if it's true. I mean, look, let me read you one more thing. This comes across 1:10 p.m. this afternoon. Our Jackie Heinrich reporting. Members of Congress are being told Russia is likely to invade. Republican and Democratic members of Congress from several committees, including Armed Services and Foreign Affairs, John, they tell me their briefings this week indicate U.S. officials, I guess that means the intelligence community, CIA, DNI, whatever, U.S. officials believe Russia is likely to invade, despite the narrative that Putin has not yet made up his mind. So I guess I'm going to ask, even in yesterday's news conference, with the slip of the tongue about a minor incursion not being so bad, which they then scurry to walk back today, I mean, does Biden know that, in fact, Russia is going in? And then, John, what in God's name are we going to do about it? Because, look, I don't want American troops going into Ukraine. That's not the point. But we have to work with NATO. 4 NATO countries surround the Ukraine, as you know. And I'll just add to this. At one point in the presser yesterday, Biden did say a sensible thing. He said one of the sanctions could be banking sanctions to keep Russia out of the U.S. dollar-based financial system. Now, that is talking turkey. I like that. But he's not doing it. He just made it as a throwaway. That's what we should have done right from the beginning. Keep Russia out of the entire U.S. dollar banking system, which is about 90% of the global financial transactions. But, John, I don't see it. What? Where? What's happening?
Well, you've made this point before, Larry. I've heard you make it. Yesterday, Joe Biden underscored what his policy continues to be with Russia, which is let's wait and see what's going to happen. Only Vladimir Putin knows what he's going to do. It goes back to the conversation that you and I have had previously on this issue about, if Russia invades and waiting for that to happen. And that is still the calculus of this administration and his national security team, which was absolutely the wrong thing from the beginning. We're in this situation because they were not proactive and addressed, as Putin began to move troops way back in April of this year into the Donbass region, addressing it at that point in time, saying, hey, we're not going to have a repeat of what happened with Crimea. And if you continue along this path, we're going to implement, these severe sanctions now. And of course, none of that happened. And as a result, we're at the situation now where our own intelligence community, those assessments are based on intelligence that we collect, both, human intelligence and signals intelligence, and it's good intelligence. And so why wouldn't you expect Vladimir Putin to move against a Joe Biden administration when he moved against a Biden-Obama administration that made the same promises about if you do this, there are going to be severe consequences. The part about this that I think people need to keep in mind with regard to Vladimir Putin as well is, unless the economic sanctions really impact his power, they have to be so severe that they really do go to his power base. I mean, dictators and autocrats are all about accumulating power. And if he doesn't think that the United States is going to do something that diminishes his power, he doesn't care about, the suffering of his people and economic consequences that may make the Russian economy worse in the short term. He's worried about keeping the power that he has. And I'm just not convinced that this administration is going to do anything. Because, again, what Joe Biden said yesterday is we are prepared. NATO is of one mind. And, we'll respond if Russia takes action. That is not, how U.S. policy should be on this. The United States should be leading on this.
I mean, we just sound like such a paper tiger. Look, last points here, John. Mr. Blinken is overseas meeting with Ukraine and Europeans, and I guess he's meeting with the Russian foreign minister tomorrow. John Ratcliffe, it just seems to me, I am not the expert that you are. I sat in on the meetings, but you're the expert. You're the intel guy. The diplomacy phase has failed. And what Biden is saying yesterday, he may not have been as artful as he would have, but it sounds like he's echoing stuff that's being told him in the Oval Office briefings or in the Situation Room briefings, that diplomacy has failed. Russia is, in fact, going to invade. And we don't have a policy, or at least we're not articulating a policy. In other words, I don't know it. I don't know, Mr. Blinken. It's not personal. Lord knows. I'm just saying, I don't know what his mission is right now. Is he trying to talk them out of it?
He's trying to.
But based on what? Based on
right.
what?
And what they know is that he'll just talk them to death. Look, Larry, you and I talked about this in August. There is a ripple effect from what happened in Afghanistan.
Right.
It impacts, we said, with Russia, China,
right.
North Korea, Iran. They would all move on weakness in the White House, indecision in the White House, a national security team that doesn't really put American national security interests abroad, at the top of their, importance. And so that's the impact of this. And we've seen Russian aggression. And we're going to continue to see it. We're going to see it from China. We've seen it, increasingly from every country around the world. And I think we're going to continue for the next 3 years, because what we saw yesterday from this president was someone who's showing ineffective, indecisive decision-making in the White House that gets walked back the very next day after he says what they don't want him to say.
That's the thing. And that it looks even worse. It looks even worse. I mean, again, John Ratcliffe, you've got Poland, Hungary, Romania, and Slovakia, NATO allies of the United States, surrounding Ukraine. So something blows up in Ukraine, well, these countries are very leery, worried, wary. I don't want to send American troops in. I'm not advocating that. But on the other hand, I don't think Russia should be able to walk all over us or walk all over our allies. Poland, I mean, there's no stronger American ally, is there? I mean, that's the thing. I don't want that. It's not a question of our military. We should be sending them weapons. Biden said yesterday we're sending them more weapons. I hope all that's true. But
Larry, if the Taliban walks over this administration, why do you think that Vladimir Putin wouldn't follow that lead? And that was the point that we made way back when about the consequences of not showing American strength around the world from the White House. And I think we're going to continue to see it.
Unfortunately, John Ratcliffe, you're right, usually right. Look, we whooped them. We whooped them on this crazy big government socialist stuff. We whooped them. But now I'm sitting back watching this foreign policy catastrophe unfold. I feel kind of powerless. I don't like anything I see. And there was once upon a time a president who talked about America first. He might not have always been right. He might not have always been appropriate, but everybody knew where that president stood. America first. This Biden performance is America last. I mean, that's the way I got to do it. I got to go. I got to jump out. John Ratcliffe, you're a
there
prince.
were no minor incursions by Putin during the prior administration. You know that, Larry.
Yes, sir.
And there's a reason for that.
Yes, sir. John Ratcliffe, thank you.